You got the physical stuff taken care of, the body, the TRT for this many months. You're going to be fresh. You're going to be like a baby hunter.
Yeah.
You're going to have your baby receptors back. It's going to be exciting.
290-pound baby hunter.
Yeah. You'll be like, you'll run like 300 bigs a test and it just explode.
I think, and this is just me talking, because, Samson keeps his camp pretty close. He's a great guy, but he keeps to his people, which you should at his level. But, I think he's very much so realized he's going to live and die by his conditioning this year, and he's not trying to leave that to chance. People talk about like 90s bodybuilding being like the golden standard and how today's like open guys like aren't as aesthetic, and it's like, well, maybe all of those freaky aesthetic guys have been holding themselves back in classic for the last couple of years.
Oh, they have been. Yeah.
Because like off the top of my head, is proof's in the pudding. He just won an open show. I will die on this hill if you have a healthy body, like no injuries keeping you from doing it. I firmly believe you should be spending the first 5 to 7 years of your career training on a true progressive overload style.
There it is.
Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. I'm, of course, Big Ron Partlow here with Dusty Hanshaw and the producer, Scott McNally. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Yeah, of course, IamMutant.com. Head to IamMutant.com. Dusty and Big Ron are your codes. Get 20% off. Have it delivered. Avoid people. Don't leave your house. All the stuff I love to do.
Crucial steps.
Crucial stuff. Hunter Labrada is on the show. It's good to have you back, Hunter. And you were just saying the last time you were on was before we had Scott kind of joining us. So it was like the first version of the show several years ago.
Absolutely. And to be honest with y'all, this is kind of like my first foray back into the bodybuilding podcast social media realm in like actually almost a year. I haven't done anything since like before the Olympia last year. I took a nice little personal
Very nice. I could see how that would be pleasant.
Oh,
and
drug him back into the murky waters out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, you're sort of you sort of taken a break from some other things too. Like, what's your year been like? Catch us up on Hunter.
Man, this year has been hard but good is probably the best way to say it. Started the year off feeling, I'm not going to lie to y'all, pretty fucking lost. Like, didn't know what I wanted to do. Was facing a lot of uncertainty in my personal life, was facing a lot of uncertainty in my professional life from, like my shoulder and some other stuff that I had going on. So, beginning of the year, I was in a really, really weird spot. And, after the Olympia last year, I knew I was going to take this whole year off, between the physical and the personal things I had going on. So it wasn't like one of those like, oh my God, I can't bodybuild either. Like whenever all this was happening, because I knew I wanted to take a step back, but it was just kind of weird, because, for the last 6 years, I guess, after the Olympia, it's okay, take like a month or two to chill and then get on the road, start doing guest posings, pushing off season, very much so I had my head buried in the sand bodybuilding for a while. And, I was forced to take a step back this year, but, it was one of those take one step back for 2 steps forward kind of things. I really feel that way. So, beginning part of the year was really rough. Come like May, I had like my birthday and I had a trip to Sweden with Gasp. And I actually, on that trip, I got to it was my first time I'd been on a bodybuilding show since the Olympia, actually. So like May, from like October till May, 0 bodybuilding anything. So, I didn't really know about how I was going to feel about it, but, going there and getting the reception that I did and getting to talk with all these like-minded people and, see the cool gyms. And I got to go with Branch and Brett Wilken. So, it's like, when I got back from that trip, it was one of those, no, you do like bodybuilding. You just need to learn how to operate in it differently, So that was a good, first little step. And then this summer, actually, for the last, 8 summers, I've been pretty, head down with bodybuilding. Not to me ignoring my daughter, but I definitely wasn't as present as I could be. So, knowing that I wasn't competing this summer, I actually had my daughter every single day. Her mom works. I obviously live a bodybuilding lifestyle. I'm very blessed to do that, so I have a lot of flexibility. So instead of daycare and summer camps, we had Camp Labrada this summer, and I had Brooklyn every day from 8 till 6, and then on my weekends and stuff. So I spent the summer being dad.
Camp Labrada.
Between spending the summer being dad, and I was still training and stuff, but it was very, very good for my head from the standpoint that I realized that the amount of, how neurotic I had been about bodybuilding, like trying to keep every single little variable controlled might have been a hurt more than a help. Because, like over the summer, I was, eating 4 times a day, still training because I like to train, but like wasn't eating nearly as much food. I really, and this is another big one for me. This is big benefit out of this year is up until 2 weeks ago, I'm back now, but up until 2 weeks ago, I'd been on TRT since the Olympia, which had been, the longest break by probably 6 times I've had since I went pro. So, getting that chemical freshness to myself too. I feel like, this whole year has just been like setting myself up to have a breakout year next year, which, 5 years into my pro career is kind of a cool thing to be able to say and actually believe it, because a lot of guys say this year is it, but, I have a really, really good feeling about this coming year.
How is the shoulder now? Like, what did you get done?
So I had the shoulder operated. Today's Monday. I actually had the procedure on Monday, so 12 weeks ago today. And that is, the end of the typical recovery period for what I had did. Doc said 8 to 12 weeks. I always, add a couple weeks to that because what I'm going to do whenever you say I'm cleared is not what a normal person is going to do when they say they're cleared to it.
So 5 to 6 weeks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Solid.
But what I had done to it was just about everything that you can have done besides anchoring or repairing the labrum and rotator cuff. So I had 3 pretty big floating bone masses we removed. I had a bone spur that we shaved down. We resurfaced my humeral head because I have severe arthritis in it. We debrided my AC joint. He debrided the rotator cuff and labrum, like pathology that we had going on. We did a capsular release and then a manipulation under anesthesia, which for those of you that don't know what a manipulation under anesthesia is, basically exactly like it sounds. They just force your shoulder way past this where it's comfortable while you're under anesthesia to try and break up scar tissue and adhesions. Ooh. So I imagine the little 155-pound doctor who was like 65 years old that performed the procedure, like just like fucking like RKO'd my shoulder or something in the operating room.
All the way he had.
So it was basically everything that we could do without anchoring or repairing the labrum and rotator cuff, because as I'm sure y'all know, that turns my 8 to 12 week recovery into a 6 to 8 month recovery. So I wanted to avoid that, especially knowing how trash the shoulder was, because my initial consult with the guy is the guy who does all the Texans and Astros shoulders here in Houston. He goes, Hunter, if I showed this MRI to 100 orthopedic surgeons and didn't tell them your age, all 100 would say you need a shoulder replacement right now. But you're 33 years old, so we're going to find a way to put that off for a couple of years.
I was going to interrupt earlier and say, for anybody who doesn't know Hunter, he is not 80, based on the breakdown of what you were getting done.
Yeah, so... And then as nice and as advanced as our medicine system has become these days, they still haven't invented a shoulder replacement that can handle bodybuilding training. So whenever I have to have that done, competitive bodybuilding's done. So we're putting that off for a little while.
I love that you deal with a doc who works with athletes, because like you said, it's such a different thing.
I think you have to deal with them because, a lot of doctors, they're like a general GP, like more surgeon might be like, oh yeah, you just need, stop doing the things that bother it, or you need to stop doing things overhead, or maybe back off your training a little. And it's like, this isn't my pickleball after work. This is my livelihood. So working with doctors that have dealt with athletes, and then just importantly is that I've found is working with rehab and tissue guys that are used to working with bodybuilders is a big thing, because even great sports physios, that are good with like football players or, basketball guys or even strength sports. It's very different having the amount of size and tissue that we have and, the lack of joint space that we have, especially in the shoulders.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. They, first surgery I ever got when I was a kid, I went to just a regular doc. He did a scope on my knee, and I saw him 2 days later and I said, what's the recovery? He said, just go how you feel. And I was like, all right, cool. And I had to call him the next day. I said, hey, my knee is swelled up like 3 times the side and it's bleeding down my leg. And he's like, what did you do? I said, I went for a hike with 2 hot girls. And he was like, why would you do that? I said,
two hot girls?
You said, do what I felt. And I felt like going on a hike with 2 hot girls and said, let's go for a hike. So, yeah, after that, you start dealing with doctors that are like, you're an idiot. Funny. Let's slow you down.
Yeah, this surgeon that did this one was the same one that did my original procedure 5 years ago. So he's a little well versed with me now, because he's like normally I tell people 6 to 8 weeks for this, but we're gonna tell you 8 to 12.
And lean towards 12.
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
You sort of talked about like a little bit of, you're a little fried on bodybuilding too mentally from just like, pounding and pounding and pounding. So what's the mental break been like? Like, you got the physical stuff taken care of, the body, the TRT for this many months. You're going to be fresh. You're going to be like a baby hunter.
Yeah.
You're going to have your baby receptors back. It's going to be exciting.
290-pound baby hunter.
Yeah. You'll be like, you'll run like 300 bigs a test and it just explode. But I'm wondering what the mental side was. How do you feel you've sort of, the break and mental recovery too? Because bodybuilding, we know this bodybuilding bubble we live in, it's a lot. It's a lot of constant pressure on, especially you as a top pro, to look your best and be your best and train your hardest and max out everything and take advantage, like you said, every single variable all the time. What have been the highlights to you, and how do you think you've grown, and what have you learned from this break?
Well, I think the highlight to me is being able to say that the mental growth and recovery has outpaced the physical growth and recovery, which says something, because I was in so much pain before I had the shoulder fixed. I didn't know if I was going to want to bodybuild anymore. So to be able to say that's very cool to me. It's finally spent the time, instead of having head buried in the sand, going, oh, I'll deal with this then, or I'll deal with this later. No, I dealt with everything, and created bodybuilding. Started to recreate it. At least I'm still in the process of it, but started to recreate bodybuilding into something that I feel is sustainable for me. Dusty. I know you can relate to this, but I got into bodybuilding training on a hardcore progressive overload style. If I didn't walk in the gym and lift the same weight for another rep, or put 5 more pounds on the bar and lift it for the same reps as last week, I was a fucking failure.
Yeah.
And that worked really great for 3 or 4 years, through my amateur career and into my pro career. But when I got to the point where it's like I'm anxious for like 2 and 3 days leading into a leg session because I need to hack squat 12 plates for a set of 12, or do this or that, and then getting out of bed in the morning is like a 10-minute activity to finally get all the aches and pains to stop and get through all the musical bone pops that come for the first couple steps of the day. It's like I very much so I think I got to the point where I was in so much pain with the daily routine that it was like I could get myself through it, but it was one of those things, like you open up your eyes and the first thing I open up my eyes now and the first thing on my mind, is like thank you, or okay, here we go, it's a good day to have a good day. And I'm not trying to sound like Mr. fucking Rogers, but that's just how it is for me right now.
Right.
Like last year, it was one of those things like I'd open up my eyes and go, here we fucking go again. Because it's like obviously like I have all the normal aches and pains from training the way that I do. My shoulder at that point is like literally falling apart. And the most painful thing for my shoulder, both before I had it fixed and now as I rehab it, is overhead pressing and posing. So what are you doing in prep? You are posing 2 or 3 times a day, multiple rounds. So it's kind of one of those things that, I'd open up my eyes every single day for 6 months straight last year going, okay, let's get out of bed. Let's go be in pain for 10 minutes. And then let's go do 45 minutes of cardio. And then let's come eat half the amount of food you want to eat. And then, let's go get your shoulder busted up by the PT so you're able to get it over your head today while you train. So
and the whole session's going to suck.
It's just the whole day is just like one thing after another. It's like, okay, here we go. Like I was very much so, and this is the best way that I've come down to being able to describe it, is I was getting everything done undisciplined.
Right.
I was getting nothing done because I wanted to do it. I was getting nothing done because I was having fun doing it. I was getting everything done on the discipline that I built over the last 10 years of doing what we call bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And that's not the reason that you started. You know what I mean? It's like you didn't get that wasn't the way bodybuilding, and I think we can probably all relate to that in our own ways. Let me ask you, because I remember seeing you turn pro. If Hunter of today could go back to that guy and just pull him aside backstage after he won his pro card, what would be the advice that you would give to him?
Buy Bitcoin.
Yes.
So
Lots of
this is
Bitcoin.
something I've spent a lot of time thinking about this year. Like what would I tell a young hunter? What would I want to tell a young bodybuilder? And it's going to sound a little like cliche and cheesy when I first say it, but when I extrapolate on it, hopefully it makes a lot more sense. And that is to fall in love with the journey, not the result. And I'll, get specific about it now. When I was coming up as an amateur, I'll put it this way. So I never lost as an amateur. I won every single show, both my class and the overall as an amateur, all the way through nationals. I won nationals. I won my pro debut at Tampa. My first Olympia, my goal was to make top 10. I placed 8th. My next Olympia, the goal was to place top 8. I placed 4th.
Yep.
So, and then that following year, that the following year's Olympia, when I slipped from 4th to 7th, was the first time in my, 7-year career that I hadn't either won or exceeded the goal I had set for myself.
So it's technically your very first, placing loss.
That third Olympia of mine was like the first loss I had taken in my head.
Wow. Right. Yeah.
So
us humans have taken many.
I really do not think that was a good thing for me, because up until that point, I had fallen in love with winning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course.
And falling in love with winning's fine. Winning's fucking awesome, but it's like when I got that 7th place, when I fell to that 7th place, I mentally crumbled for a little while because of it. I was like, okay, am I cut out to do this? It's like all of that self-doubt and, all those things that you normally experience way earlier in your career and learn to work through, not in the spotlight. I was learning to work through all these mental challenges, being one of the top 8 guys in the world and getting just my butthole stretched by the internet after that Olympia, So it was a steep learning experience, but, it's like as time's gone on and, I've taken my knocks since then. I got a close second to Andrew at Texas Pro a couple years ago.
That was a good, I
had myself in 5th at the Olympia this year. I got 6th, I've taken some L's since then, and each one's been a lot easier to take and to rebound back from, because I've fallen in love more with the journey of the prep than, the end result. Because, at the end of the day, you never know who's going to show up to a show. At my level, who's going to show up. But, especially at the amateur level and the pro qualifying level, it's like, you have no fucking clue if the next Ronnie Coleman isn't going to show up to your pro qualifier. And so to be so attached to your contest placings, it makes the sport really miserable. If you attach your happiness to your contest placings, I will say you're going to set yourself up for misery. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my career thus far.
It's funny because that's something I think all of us would tell younger versions, and no one listens. Because, how do you tell a 23-year-old kid that wants to be a pro to not get attached to his placings? It's just, it's not going to happen. It's something you have to learn.
How do you tell me as, a young pro, hey, man, you might want to, back off how you're training a little bit. The sport's about longevity, too. And I was like, no, my feedback at the Olympia last year was put more tissue on, so I'm going to do anything I fucking need to do that. I don't care what you have to say.
Right,
you don't know anything. What do you know? You've just been doing this 10 years longer than me.
Right.
I have a question before we get too far away from it. With the changes in the personal life that you've had since you've been down, how are you going to, or how do you think you're going to balance the two things in harmony so that you can be more, I'll say, present in other areas? And do you also think, and I have a tweak on this from Jose Raymond, but do you also think that by being more present in those areas that bodybuilding will be more fun?
Yes, I do. And I've already started to experience that, so, I can't put a time frame on it, but it's been somewhat recently. Going to the gym doesn't feel like work anymore, because I'm recovering from my shoulder surgery because, for the longest time I associated gym with pain.
Right.
And, I really think that became a subconscious thing for me. It's like, I wasn't dwelling on the fact that, okay, this is going to hurt. No shit, training hurts. But I think subconsciously with the amount of pain that I was in consistently for the length of time, I think I began mentally associating it with a negative thing.
Right.
So, to have that kind of in the rear view and to have the excitement of, not making a comeback, but, coming back from a surgery and, getting to see my body come back to life and everything, that's made the gym really exciting again.
Yeah.
What about the people in your life? Who has been, really telling you, I know how it is as a bodybuilder, not at your level, but sometimes you do stuff you'll tell, tell my wife, like, I'm not going to train shoulders for a couple weeks. She's like, thank you. I've been waiting for you to do this for like 2 months. Right. So like, cause you'd be complaining for 2 months, like, oh, my shoulder hurts, and then that you finally take the break. So was there anyone like when you took this break and who was the most like, oh, this is exactly what you need and just there to support you the most?
My mom, my dad, and my training partner. Because, obviously my dad, the gym that I train at, the Labrada gym, it's actually in, at our corporate headquarters. So we have, all of the, like, we have another warehouse, but we have the main warehouse, all of the offices, and then the gym at one spot. So, it's like I'll see my dad just about every single day when I'm training. Half the time he'll change out and come be out at the gym at the same time that we're training. So, like for 2 or 3 years, he saw it pretty much every single day, just like how, I'm just going to call it how fucked off I was from bodybuilding, and it definitely was wearing on him. And, it'd be like one of those things, like the same way your wife, Ron, my dad, obviously he knows what he's talking about, but you're never a prophet in your own land, right?
Right.
You're never a prophet in your own land. So, I just for the longest time thought I was doing what it took. And at this point, especially after taking these last 10 months off and retaining the size that I have without even really trying, I'm telling everyone out there listening to this, there is more than one way to skin the cat.
Yes.
There might be like the best way to skin the cat, but if that best way is causing this like tirade of like negative effects outside of bodybuilding, is it really the best way?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us then, like, what are you figuring out? And I know it's early, but it's interesting because I think a lot of us were really, there's been this big push with progressive overload, with everything that you were talking about. But I feel like I'm seeing this evolution within the community now of ways to get around it. Like I'm watching Nick Walker talk about, well, I don't always go to super hard failure. And I'm hearing, a lot of different variety that maybe is kind of getting beyond just the another rep or another 5 pounds.
I'm so glad you brought that up. So
yeah, what are you figuring out, man?
I want to say it like this, and that is, I think bodybuilding, if you're going to take it, the distance, i.e., start as an amateur and make it all the way to like the high level pro, whether it be, like truly, Olympia competitive or, able to win a pro show, there are different phases of your career, different phases of the training that you'll go through. The way that Nick trained, like we talked about, is the same way that I trained for the longest time. Like we were progressive overload, throwing around obnoxious amounts of weight, like whole 9 yards. And you know what? It built our base. It built me up to a certain size. It built, the proficiency with the movements. It built everything up to a certain point. But, not speaking for him, although him and I have talked enough to, I know this is kind of for him too, but, it's like, I got to the point where I got so strong that I was, regularly pinging things, trying to continually progress it. And, it's like, if I'm, not like tearing anything, but, if like I'm straining my quad, bad enough to where it's like I got to skip the next leg session. And then the following one needs to be like a 50%. And then the one after that needs to be, is almost back to normal. And, it's like I spent a month training suboptimally when, it's like, could I have accomplished the same thing that I strained my quad with those 6 plates with if I would have put, 4.5 or 5 on and just slowed it down and done another couple reps with it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say I had any ego in it, but I definitely had it stuck in my head that, progressive overload was the only way to grow. And I think, I was starting to get away from that idea last year just because, like, my body simply couldn't do it, especially with the shoulder. But, coming into this year, I am healing up to the point where I could do that again if I wanted to. But after training, with that intensity backed off just a little bit, I feel like it's made a world of difference. Now, I go back to saying there's different phases. And, I think Nick said something along the lines of this too. It's like, for 10 years, I trained every single working set to failure or past failure with forced reps. I became very, 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 very familiar with what true failure felt like. And I don't think a lot of people know what that true failure feels like.
Agreed.
Especially, just going anecdotally off of me training with guys over show weekends, or, like I'll have guests come through the gym, especially on legs, it's like set's not over when it starts hurting. Set's over when the muscle's done.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people don't have that concept really ingrained in their head yet. So I do feel like that a lot of benefit comes out of training that way, but I do feel like, it's a journey that you have to learn to adapt to. What worked when you started and what worked to put on your size is, probably not going to be sustainable, or probably not even what's best, even if you could, as you get later in your career. It's like, I don't need to be bigger all over. I need to be bigger in certain spots, and I need to get myself peeled. And to get myself peeled, I need to have my systemic inflammation at a manageable rate. And, if I'm starting a prep after spending the last 6 months banging as much food and gear into my body as possible, training every session, like to the point where I feel like I'm about to die, I'm going to start prep in a bad spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
It took me a while to realize that, but I've realized it now.
Do you think, because I really like that you keep throwing in the periods of training, I feel like that's an area that gets missed in both directions. You got the guys who, like you, were stuck and continuing to train in a way you no longer needed to. And on the other end of the spectrum, you got young guys watching guys that are late in their career who used to do all that stuff. And they're saying, oh, well, so-and-so just kind of pumps his chest.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm going to do as a beginner. And I feel like that point that you made is so important, because I agree with you. I think that the progressive overload laid your foundation and created what you have.
I will die on this hill. If you have a healthy body, like no injuries keeping you from doing it, I firmly believe you should be spending the first 5 to 7 years of your career training on a true progressive overload style.
There it is.
Yeah.
Love that. I
we get the
agree.
sound bite for the show right there.
Yeah, that's all we need. It was good talking to you, Hunter. See you later. No, I love that though, because I feel like that's an area that gets thrown off. Because people will see, like, I haven't trained to ridiculous failure, and I can't remember how long. And like you said, you'll go
Says
somewhere.
the guy casually rowing 5 plates.
Right, to this day.
But I think it's funny though, because what you said that really hit was how easily you're holding that mass. Like, you start to realize, like, for you to shrink when you decide you're done is going to be a bigger chore than it was putting the size on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's mind-boggling.
After the last 10, 11 months, I 100% firmly believe that.
Yeah, your
Like,
body's just used to
in
it.
January, whenever I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing with myself. I don't know what I want to do. I was eating 4 times a day. Whatever. I was like, all right, you'll probably get down to 255, 260 by March or April, and you can kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah, yeah. You touched 289 one day and back up to 290. Yeah, that's freaking wild. Now I love this because I actually didn't hear your full story. I kind of watched your video review, kind of explaining, and I'm just amped because I feel like. So I used to, when I was with iForce, Jose and I did a lot of traveling together, and obviously was nowhere near his level, never could be, never would be. But he taught me on the road how to relax, because we'd be going out to eat, and I'm like, I got my food in the hotel. And he's like, no, there's food here. And I'd be like, fine, I put it in order. And he's like, throw in an order of French fries for him. And I'm looking at him like, what? He's like, we are on our feet all day. Trust me. So I started letting him order for me when we'd go out. And I'd come home and I'd be down a pound after a 2-week trip. And he's like, you'd have been down 7 pounds if you'd have done what you were doing. And I just learned that relaxing and enjoying a little bit made me a better bodybuilder. I actually got better as soon as I stopped being, I was the guy that brought the scale with me to the hotel room and weighed it out in grams.
Again, I feel like that goes back to what we were talking about. It's like when you first get started, I wouldn't even call it you're being neurotic about it. You're just really learning how to be on top of all these things. When you first start, it's hard to remember to wake up, do your gut drink, take your health supplements, do your vacuums, do your cardio if you have your cardio, have your meals ready to go. There's a lot of shit to check off the list whenever you're first getting started if you're wanting to do this, at a certain level. Mm-hmm. But, after you do it for 5, 6, 7 years, it's not that hard. It's not that hard, and it's not something you need to be that neurotic about. Yes, you have to prepare, but you've been doing it for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years now. Like it should be relatively easy to prepare. So I couldn't agree more with saying, like the longer I've done it and the more that I've realized, it's like, okay, it's like, yeah, I could stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning to eat this meal, or I could get an extra 3 hours of sleep and just get up on time tomorrow and get all the food in tomorrow. It's like,
Yeah.
Couple years ago, I would have been setting an alarm at 2 o'clock in the morning and been in my kitchen, choking food down and, messing my digestion up and waking up with an upset stomach the next morning and that like messing up my whole day. Now I get an extra 3 hours of sleep and feel better the next day for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's game changing.
I've always felt, I don't know who said it to me, but I've always felt that sleep trumped food. Because I always thought, I have killer workouts prepping for shows on barely any food as long as I have sleep, right? Like if you're getting good sleep, you can diet hard and still have great workouts. So I always was not convinced by the idea of like one meal being more important than like a good night's sleep for tomorrow's workout. If I get a good night's sleep, tomorrow's workout's definitely going to be awesome. But if I get that extra meal in and then a shitty sleep, I'm not so convinced. So I don't know. That's just how I always felt. I always felt sleep was more important than a single meal.
I would agree with that.
Want to talk about, we got some training stuff, didn't we?
We had some training stuff, and also too, we wanted to get your perspective on the 2025 season and everything that's going on. We're closing in.
Do you want to just
Olympia.
start with Urs?
Orr's just got his placing, or he's got his ticket to the Olympia.
What do you think of
There's
that?
so much to talk about. We want your perspectives on all that stuff.
Because you know all these guys. That's one of the things we were excited about Hunter. Because you don't just know them like hires, but you're like all these guys, right? So
yeah, I had Urs at my house earlier this year. Cooked him a steak dinner. I told him to take credit for how you looked. One steak dinner's credit's worth.
Yeah, I think it went right to his quads. So what's your take on that? Are you surprised?
So I will be the first one to say that I did not have him winning because I didn't think he was going to, because I feel like the body parts that were severely limited with him, like with how hard he was keeping himself under that cap, his weak body parts were like really weak in my opinion, and his weak body parts being his arms. And, in open bodybuilding, you don't have freaky arms, you aren't going to do well.
No.
So in my mind, I was like, okay, he'll probably place, like top 5, and then, he'll spend the next year bringing his weak body parts up, and then he'll be a force to be reckoned with next year.
Nope.
It looked like all of that damn food went to his arms and legs. I was so impressed with how
it looked like he was just shrinking his limbs to make classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So honestly, man, one of the most interesting things that came out of Urs winning this weekend was, like the sentiment, and I've seen a couple different people posted it. I know, Terrence Ruffin posted it, and I think I saw a couple other people say it, but, it's like, how many people talk about, like, 90s bodybuilding being, like, the golden standard, and how today's, like, open guys, like, aren't as aesthetic, and it's like, well, maybe all of those freaky aesthetic guys have been holding themselves back in classic for the last couple years.
Oh, they have been. Yeah.
Because like off the top of my head, Urs proof's in the pudding. He just won an open show.
Yeah.
Ramon Dino looks like an open bodybuilder for like 6 or 7 months out of the year, and then somehow miraculously makes weight every year.
Yeah.
And, so there's a couple guys like Mike's incredible. Like all those guys. Like I feel like, and I don't know Mike or Ramon well enough to know how bad they're holding themselves back, but like Urs, I know well enough to know like he was 35 pounds over his cap with glutes in and pretty much ready.
I said it a bunch of times. I saw Urs in the off season in Toronto one year, and he had shorts on, so I couldn't see him, but I could see his calves, and I was like, "Fuck! How the fuck heavy is he?" Like he looked, and I guess he was like 280. Like I said hi to him. I go, dude,
we
you're
had him
huge.
at the gym back in February. He was every bit of like 275, 280.
Yeah. And I was like talking to him in Toronto, and I was like, man, this guy's got to start dieting now. Like,
got a lot of muscle to lose.
Like 6 months of brutal dieting to be 220 or whatever he has to weigh. Oh man. So yeah. It was fun.
I mean, outside of Urs this season, I feel like it's been pretty damn exciting, man. I feel like
It's been a great
And like
year.
I feel like we're starting to get a glimpse of some of the up and comers that are going to be here for a while. You know, Jordan Hutchinson, really delivered at Texas and at Tampa. That was really fun to watch. He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you see him often because you guys are both down there in Texas?
Yeah, so Jordan and Justin and Elias and all those guys, all the gas boys, they all live up in Dallas. They all live pretty close to Destination Dallas now. And then
Okay.
I'll pop up there at least once or twice a month and, fulfill my obligations that I have with Gasp, and then catch a lift, eat some food with them if they aren't dieting and everything. We got a good thing going in Texas right now, man.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, it's definitely
There's
the
a lot
California
of good bodybuilders
now
in Texas.
of
Brett
the
and Martin
90s.
just
Yeah.
moved. Brett and Martin both live, 30 minutes from me. Every single day out in my gym, it's me and Terrence and Logan, and we got a good crew in Texas.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you. I saw some news this morning that I actually didn't even discuss it with these guys. I assumed everyone's heard, but I
Keone?
saw that Keone's doing the Prague Open.
Oh, you're kidding me. It's
Yeah.
news to me, too.
Yeah, last
Yeah.
year it was Chris. This year it's Keone.
Holy
That's
crap.
bad
Yeah.
news for everyone that's doing that show.
Bad news for everyone.
part of me, right when I heard it, I was like, "Damn, I wonder if no one's gonna go just because they don't want to risk being knocked off by Keone."
Yeah.
Part of
yeah.
me thinks it'll be stacked, and then part of me thinks like it'll be Keone, then just all the European guys that were planning on doing it regardless. But
Right,
all the
everyone's
guys
saving
from
their
the O are gonna
airfare.
Skip it. They don't want to get caught slipping, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
I can't. I mean, he is one of the few though where at the 212 cutoff, I wish that they'd let him just hop into the Olympia, because I really think with his structure, I mean, seeing him in person and posing, you're like, it's impossible that you're not
I
240.
personally think Keone's the best bodybuilder on the planet right now. I really do.
Really?
I
He's
do too.
incredible.
He's bananas.
And you're a guy who's. Do you see him? Like, I know he was in Texas for. Is he still in Texas?
Yeah,
I'm
so
trying to
he
remember.
lived in
He's in
Texas
Vegas
for a
now.
while, so I'd see him
Yeah, he
pretty
moved.
regularly. He's not with Gasp anymore, so I don't see him as much. But I'll see him when I go to Vegas, which is often enough.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, because he
we'll
moved,
talk
right?
here
Where
and
is he
there.
now? I can't remember. We had him
He's
on
in
the
He's in
show.
Vegas with his
yeah.
wife Amanda. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they got a great thing going there. He's completely locked in year round, so it's been really fun to see the progress he's made. Because I feel like that was the missing piece for him. Just finding that right environment and finding that right crew of people, and proof's in the pudding. Look what he's done the last 3 years. It's
Well, he
crazy.
learned how to do leg curls. He was on our show and he said, "Oh yeah, I turned pro. I'd never done like a lying leg curl before." And I was
Like, I wasn't doing
Yeah, he's
that.
like, I decided I needed to bring my hams up. But we're like, well, what'd you do? He's like, well, I started training them directly,
Yeah, he said that. He's like, yeah, well, I started like doing hams, like really
Fast
training
forward
them.
3 years later, has the craziest posterior chain in the IFBB.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely nuts. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize that, Ron. That's glad I'm not a guy that was going to win that show. Okay, second place is still good.
Yeah. What are some other matchups you're looking for at the Olympia? Like, we've got some interesting guys. Obviously, Jordan's going to be there and all that stuff. So,
Man,
I
I think that show is top to bottom going to be fun to watch.
do you think it's going to be shaken up? Sometimes the O doesn't get that.
I'm interested to see what happens like 1 through 5 because I feel like that's a complete toss-up this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm also really interested to see what happens like 5 through 10 or 11, because I feel like there's 10 guys that could be in those 5 or 6 spots.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. It's
I
going to
think
be.
it's been a long time since we've had an Olympia that's really going to come down to like who peaks the best and who did their homework. There's no clear cut like first group there's a clear cut first group second group of guys, but within those groups there's no like clear cut favorites. in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And then you still run that possibility of one of the clear-cut second group guys just forcing his way into the first group. Like how we no one really saw Martin doing what he did last year. Everyone thought he was going to be awesome. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
And
Which
then-
means not the top 5.
Right. So if someone does that, who do you think it's going to be?
If someone does that, I would say it's probably going to be either Brett or Jordan if I had to pick some names.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I feel like, those are two guys that could, really, really push into like that top 8. or even, you know, like 7th spot, and I feel like they could fall to, you know, like maybe even 11th or 12th if they don't come in on. You know, that being said, both of those guys have a history of coming in very on for their shows, so I'm really excited to see what they do. And they're both good friends, so I know I've said like everyone's a good friend, but you know, it's like Open's a good group of guys, so it's like it's going to be very bittersweet, but also very exciting to be watching from the seats this year.
Oh yeah,
I think if
feel
either of those
two
guys
would be interesting just standing next to each other. Like, I would love to see those guys compared, just because you know how it is. I mean, they're great individually, but I just love to see them next to each other, because if somebody said who's better to me right now, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, can you put them next to each other and give me 10 rounds to make a decision?
Yeah, I would give Brett the award of like more likely to be the dark horse personally, because I feel like people are watching Jordan now. They're like, we're gonna see how he does.
I mean, Jordan's coming off, you know, fresh off of 2 wins within the last 8 weeks or 9 weeks by the time Olympia comes around. You know, Brett qualified last year, and you know, bodybuilding fans in their short-term memories.
Exactly, like he made a big splash a while ago, right?
Like,
it's been a little while, so he could surprise people.
Olympia last year, I'm retired in most people's eyes.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a wild thing, but that's very true, because it's fresh. Because in my head, I think you just nailed it. Even for me, is I'm like, my brain kicks back and says that I would assume Jordan is better, but I'm thinking of Brett from a year ago.
Right, you haven't seen Brett for a year,
and I'm sure he's done a thing or two in the last year.
I mean, in the last year, you got to think. Last year, he moved to Texas, and him and Martin have been just fucking eating weights together every day for a year straight in Texas. So yeah, both of them are going to be a lot better.
Do you feel like that's something? And it's funny, we've talked about this on the show, but I think a missing link for a lot of people is, like you said, the environment or the training partners. Like, I always had training partners that were just as insane as I was, who also operated on my schedule. Like, they would literally be like, what time are we training? And it would be whenever I wanted. And that's just game changing.
I'll say this, after having some really great training partners over the years too, I think the single greatest tool that you can have in your training is a training partner. Mm-hmm. Because a good training partner will get the best out of you. A good training partner makes, you know, equipment with an okay resistance profile great, because they can spot it in the areas they need to spot it in. Mm-hmm. You know, especially once you develop a rapport and a history with one, there are people that can call you on your bullshit. You know, like, you did that fucking 10 times last week, right? Yeah. And, you know, so it's like that. And then I'm sure you've had this, Dusty. I've had a couple training partners that were close enough in strength that we're basically just trying to fucking kill each other in the gym every day.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, that's been my best. It's been some of my best progress I've made in my career, you know? So I feel like a good training partner is an absolutely invaluable tool.
Yeah, I feel like one of the coolest things when you get a great training partner is at the end of a set, when you're thinking like 3 more and they say 5, and you know that they know you. So that's not like a bold, ridiculous statement. You're just like, okay, it's 5. You know, whereas on the contrary, like, I had a guy that I trained with one time that I literally trained with him twice, and then I told him he couldn't come back anymore, because I'd be like squeaking out a rep and he'd go 6 more. And I'm like, my brain would like shut off. I'm like, are you high?
Are you fucking stupid? This is not motivating.
This doesn't help me that you want me to get 30 more reps when I'm like dying, you know? So literally, like, I was like, this won't work, you know, because it's fine if they, you know, if they're close or if they push you for 1 more, but when it gets ridiculous, you're like, it's almost like you shut off. You're like, are you dumb? So
it either gets annoying or it gets you hurt, one of the two.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I agree. I think that's, and I love seeing it, because you watch, I mean, seeing Jordan move to Texas, that changed his career.
Yeah, him and Justin getting together up there, and it's game changing for sure. Absolutely.
Hey, what did you think? We never talked about this on the show either, but that appearance Samson just made.
Oh yeah.
I think that he was flat as piss in showing the world that he is really pushing for conditioning this year.
That's exactly what I thought
when I saw it.
I thought he looked smaller, but he's dieting hard.
Yeah.
But I thought he was super lean.
Yeah. I think, and this is just me talking, because, you know, Samson keeps his camp pretty close. He's a great guy, but he keeps to his people, which you should at his level. But I think he's very much so realized he's going to live and die by his conditioning this year, and he's not
Yeah.
trying to leave that to chance.
And when
Absolutely.
I say smaller, I don't actually mean smaller. I just mean like I could tell he was like
Bodybuilding's a funny thing. You can
flat.
call someone that weighs 300 pounds on stage small,
yeah,
right?
like I could
Right.
tell that
Smaller
he had
than
room.
him.
Like, I think he's.
Sucked
I think
down.
he's.
Yeah.
I think he is going to be. I don't know. I think Samson's going to be the best Samson we've ever seen. That's.
I think so too.
That's my.
If you
take on
guys are
this.
right, if he comes in like absolutely lights out peeled, I don't
Yeah.
know if he can be beat. You know, I'll be completely honest with that shape and already being the champ. Like that's going to be a really dangerous place to be.
I think Samson, one of the most impactful things about him, and one of the reasons why he's Mr. Olympia, is because like Aceto used to say to me, like it's really hard to get around a guy who looks like the champ in the front relaxed. Like when you're front relaxed is clearly the best. Like just aesthetically, mask, everything, just the way he flows and looks, it's so hard. Like you gotta make up all this ground right off first impression. And Samson's front relaxed, I just love his front relaxed, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and just how everything falls in the right spot. He doesn't stand
Absolutely.
too wide. He's natural looking. Like
He's
just-
got legs for arms. His
Yeah.
midsection tight. Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's
the
a great
taper's
shot of
crazy.
him.
He's huge. He's taller than everyone. It's like it's just that overwhelming front relax.
Like
so we'll see
like
what
at the
happens.
routines on the Olympia night show when you see their silhouettes before they come
Yes,
out. It's
you
like
know
that
him.
was made for Samson. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Samson or Andrew, man. Andrew's from
Yeah,
he's
another one too, yeah.
Wacky. Yeah, absolutely wacky.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing? You've done the Olympia a couple times, man. You've done very well at that level. I know we've all seen freaky stuff. Like I saw Dorian Guest pose in '93 when I was just young, and like
Hunter
I'll never.
was very young.
Yeah, you were still we're not even a single cell.
I was 1 year old.
You were 1 year old.
See?
So yeah, you didn't have the back Dorian had back then. But like you never forget those things. But is there anything at the Olympia level that you saw backstage or on stage where you were like,
I had one go-to story for this with anyone that asks, because people ask this question kind of regularly. My welcome to the Olympia moment was my rookie Olympia, and I was in a pro tan tent getting a coat of tan put on, and
you got eighth, right? What was your first?
Yeah, I got eighth.
Yeah,
my
eighth
first
one.
one.
Yeah.
So getting tan put on, getting glaze put on, it's either Ben's wife or Alyssa doing it. It's like they're really good friends of mine. I'm like vibing, I'm having a good time. I'm at my first Olympia.
I'm at the O.
I come out of the tent, and fucking Rami is sitting there just with his legs locked and like bent over, getting the glaze put on his back and hamstrings, and it looked like a fucking kitchen table sitting in front of me, and I'm just like, oh. Okay. Welcome to the zoo, Hunter. And that was my welcome to the Olympia moment.
So Rami,
Now,
what year was that? Man, time flies.
that was 2020.
Oh shit.
So that was the year that Phil did his comeback, and it was Dexter's
And got
last
third.
Olympia, and yeah.
Wow.
Oh wow. It's so funny when you mention Rami. I
Because
was like, wow, that was a
people
while
always
ago.
talk about like there's different levels to it. It's
Yeah.
like I remember being backstage at Tampa, going, "Yeah, I fucking belong here. I'm going to win this show." I remember getting backstage at the Olympia, looking around and going, "Oh boy."
Qualifying and winning
It's different. It's
far
different.
apart. Man.
It got less far apart though as the years passed. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
so after you took fourth at the Olympia, did you finally realize that? I mean, because I've followed you or known of you before you got into bodybuilding, because Bruce from working at Labrada, and he used to own my stores, and he would just occasionally send me like pictures of you when you were like tinkering with weights, and I'm like, if he ever starts, it's going to be frightening. And then he would send me updates when you were natural, and you did not look natural.
I remember you when you were natural.
Like
Yeah.
if you would have shown me your
my Natty pics, I'll never share because I don't feel like arguing with idiots on the internet. But
listen,
man.
I would have been one of those idiots. Like I saw those pictures, and I'm like, Now, when you say natural, do you mean natural or do you mean like only test and trend and EQ and
Just GH insulin,
growth
and
and
SARMs
insulin?
and peptides. Yeah.
But did you realize when you started to do that jump that like that winning at the highest level was absolutely in the cards? Or have you realized that yet?
I will say that my rookie season actually was the 2020 year, so COVID year, whenever that all happened. And I was originally planning on doing the New York Pro for my pro debut. It's the same show that Lee did for his pro debut and won it. It was called the Night of Champions when he won it.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was
The
exactly
NOC, buddy, with the ring. Yeah.
follow in Dad's footsteps, get a ring, do Steve's show, Never Hurts, and, all that stuff. Well, I started prep in February, and that show's normally in May. It got pushed back, and then it got pushed back, and then it got pushed back. And I ended up competing in August at the Tampa Pro that year. But I vividly remember that year thinking about how much of a blessing in disguise that was. Like seeing the pictures, because for the New York Pro, I got to the point where I was probably like 4 weeks out before it got called. So, it's like my glutes were pretty much in. Like I was lean. And it gave me the ability to rebound out of that for a good, 10 to 12 weeks and then come back down again and then actually rebound again because it got pushed again. And if you look at my pictures when I'm like at that 4 week out mark versus New York versus, like the 4 week out mark from Tampa, one was going to win a pro show and one wasn't going to win a pro show.
Right.
So it was that 2020 year, like really my first season as a pro that I really, got my head wrapped around, okay, you are big enough, you do have the size, you are able to get in good enough shape that you can, win your pro debut. Because it's like you have two camps of people. You have the no, go out there and fucking win the thing, and then you have the other camp of hey, be realistic. You're competing with a bunch of grown ass men who have been doing this 15, 16 years. Because at the time, my first season in 2020, I was 27 years old, and I had competed in 5 shows total in my life.
They did 5 shows the year before at the pro level.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm competing against guys of, 30, 40 shows under their belts and stuff. So, there were like 2 schools of thought headed into it. But, like after, headed into Tampa, I thought I could win it. Nice. So that was like the first time that I really thought, at the pro level that I could do well. Coming out of nationals, I had shoulder surgery, my first one, in March after I won nationals. So, all of 2019, winning a pro show wasn't even on my mind. It was just, okay, get back to what you looked like before this surgery.
What did they do that time? What was that shoulder surgery? Same shoulder?
So first shoulder surgery was just a pretty big cleanup job like this one, and then we also tendinized my bicep. So like everything I have going on at this side of my body can be traced back to an injury that I got my freshman season of football. I got tackled from behind. I was in the slot. I played running back and, caught the ball, turned upfield. Linebacker came from behind, wrapped me up. So we both came down on my arm like that. And I actually broke my humerus up here and then dislocated the shoulder at the same time. And when I dislocated the shoulder, it blew out what's called your transverse humeral ligament, which is the ligament that holds the long head of your bicep in the bicipital groove.
I moved mine.
So for the next decade, that tendon basically was riding in and out of that groove to the point where it literally almost rubbed itself in half.
Yep.
Because like after I got the MRI on it, headed into nationals, and the doc was like, "You need surgery, but you can get through this prep. Just don't do anything stupid." We did the surgery, and the first thing he said when I woke up was like, "Well, the MRI didn't really present how bad it was. It was hanging on by a thread. You got really lucky." And I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's good." So yeah, it was just a big cleanup job, and then a bicep tendinosis that first one.
I got to ask you a few questions. But I've told you this, and many people know this, but your dad was the first pro I met.
Okay.
Right? I've told you that story. He came to guest pose where I lived when I was like 15. And so I was like 15-year-old kid seeing your dad in the gym and thinking, he doesn't look big. And then he took his sweatshirt off and did a couple sets in his tank top. And he was like 6 weeks out from the O, too. and I'll never forget the impact that had
It's
on
like
me.
me
'Cause-
being at the gym with Terrence right now, man.
Yeah,
Terrence looks
yeah.
like a
He doesn't
normal
look that
person.
big.
Terrence takes his clothes off, and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, you know.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, it was just, it's a real vivid memory. Like I remember, you know, the owner of the gym saying we're bringing Labrada up, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. He's second place in the Olympia, and then he comes up and he had just shaved his mustache, so we're like, oh, Lee shaved his
Sacrilege.
mustache.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so
he's
good.
going with no mustache for this Olympia, right? But yeah, he was really awesome. He was a first pro I ever met. But I just wanted to ask you, like, what is your dad's take on what you've done with your career to this point, even including the break, having a shoulder operated on? Obviously, I assume you've surpassed. You know, he told me he never pushed you to bodybuild once. You did it all on your own. But what's his take on, you know, where you've gotten and the break you've had and what you plan to do now?
Yeah, so his take on it, you know, originally, you know, going back to, you know, like getting out of high school, I was a pretty good football player growing up and got a football scholarship to a D2 school up in Boston. And, you know, like he was really involved with, you know, taking me around to like the recruiting camps that I'd have to go to and this and that. So he's like very invested in my football and enjoyed watching me play football. And then, you know, also had been there, done that with the bodybuilding thing and knew what it took to be good at bodybuilding. So I don't think anyone would necessarily push their child to that. So, you know, you know, coming out of high school, going into my freshman season of football in college, you know, like I got up there and, you know, like when it wasn't Texas high school football with all my best friends and it was a 50-hour-a-week time commitment for, you know, the games to be smaller than my high school games. And at that point, I knew I wanted to bodybuild. And at that point, I'd also had 3 concussions, a broken shoulder, an avulsion fractured hip, you know, a bunch of soft tissue.
Not a lot of
stuff.
shelf life on the average running back.
I don't regret playing football. Football is one of the best memories of my life, but it's not if you get hurt, it's when and how bad. And up until that point, I hadn't gotten hurt bad enough to where it would affect bodybuilding. So, you know, I made the call during camp my freshman year that I had officially gotten to the point where I enjoyed training to play football more than playing football and that I was done. So I actually called my dad and let him know, and he was upset to the point where he was like, find a ride home from the airport whenever I came home.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the degree to which he didn't approve of me saying I wanted to bodybuild instead of football at the beginning. But, you know, obviously, you know, I did it, you know, that freshman year. I put on, like, a ton of size. Like, you know, I was 200 pounds in, like, football shape, like, lean 200 pounds. And, like, you know, by the end of the year, I think I weighed, like, 235. And granted, I was kind of, you know, I looked like I had been eating an all-you-can-eat cafeteria plan and eating all the weights all year. Let's put it
Proper
that way.
young man bodybuilder
You know,
look.
after he
Yeah.
saw the size that I put on and, you know, saw how, you know, like, locked in, dialed in, and dedicated I was to it, he was like, okay, you know, I'll support this.
Nice.
You know, going into that 2018 year where I won junior USAs and then nationals, he'll probably tell you that was the year that he started looking at me going, okay, you know, he might be able to have a pro career, like a pro career, not like what I've done so far. But it was after that Tampa show in 2020 that he was kind of like, all right, man, you know, you got what it takes. You know, it wasn't
Tough
like
crowd.
one of those, like, he never blew smoke up my ass, man.
I
Like,
love
he
it.
never blew smoke up my ass, and he'll be the first person to say that he did not think that I would even come close to doing what I've done so far. So
That's
I
wild.
love that.
I'd like to think that I have some realistic people in my corner. I don't get much smoke blown up my ass by my
What,
corner.
what do you think? I've taken, like, there's been pictures put up before of like your side tricep and your dad's side tricep or whatever. Like people, you know, what do you think you genetically are similar to him? Like what body parts or what poses or what things do you think you're like, that's clearly from my dad?
Our
Just
arm
the whole
shapes
thing?
Our arm shapes are freakily similar.
Okay. Like the way the triceps pop and you just
Yeah, the
everything.
tricep shape, the shoulder shape, the bicep shape, the split in the bicep. That's all pretty similar. I feel like our back shape is pretty similar, but I feel like, you know, me growing up and competing in the era that I compete in versus his, you know, it's like I've just had to put more tissue on my back.
Yeah,
so I feel like while the
Yeah.
shape's similar, I feel like I have a lot more tissue on my back than he did.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then I feel like the biggest genetic difference between him and you're going to laugh, is our glutes. He had no ass, and I have I've got an ass on me for sure. So,
You got plenty of
he was
glute.
never a big squatter, and from the time that I was like 13 until probably 21 years old, I was in a squat rack at least once a week. So
Playing
I feel
football.
like that built a really good base for my exactly.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like if Lee Labrada is your dad, your expectations on yourself for posing are automatically probably going to be a little bit higher than the
If
average
my dad was
bodybuilder.
dead, he'd be rolling over in his grave
Yeah.
right now. That's what he thinks about my posing.
Yeah, does he really? Does he really?
Yeah. So that's one of the things, I'm really excited about this year. Because, to be honest with you, the reason why, I don't, at least make an attempt to pose at the level that Lee posed at is for the last 4 years, posing's been excruciating.
Okay. Yeah.
You just gotta
It's
hit
not
the
like one of
shots
those
you know
like,
you
oh my
can.
God, this is so much fun. I feel like an artist right now as I piece together all of these, beautiful strings of poses and this and that. It's like fighting for my fucking life, going, okay, get through 2 more rounds and then you can stop this because it feels like someone's shoving an ice pick in my
What
shoulder.
hurt the most? Like cranking like your arm back for
So the
front
external
double?
rotation for the front and back double bicep, until I had this shoulder surgery, I felt like someone was just shoving a knife in the front of my shoulder.
Right.
Yeah.
So at what point, like, you could put your arm like this and then like, like.
Yeah, pretty much the second you started engaging the external rotation between the
Yeah, pretty much
bones,
here's
the
as far as I
float
could go.
masses and the torn rotator cuff, yeah.
How's it feeling now? Like, are you already getting like a lot of relief at this
Yeah,
point?
what's the range like?
I would say probably by like 7 or 8 weeks post-op, it had better range of motion and was less painful than it was before the operation.
That's
And, in the past 4 weeks, it's gotten like noticeably better to the point where it's like I can sit in a front double pretty comfortably now. So, all the doctors I've talked to, all the physical therapists that I work with, all of them are like, this is going to continue to get better for you for probably 5 or 6 months. So to know that, I'm pretty optimistic about it.
I think it'll be interesting to see how that impacts your training, because anybody who's delved into training and the way the body works understands that you've been able to build your back the way it is in spite of the fact that you're probably not moving through the right range of motion. You're moving through the motion you can.
Yeah, this scapular movement on that side was definitely a little bumped up for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a game changer because, yes, you're completing a movement, but there's just certain things that can't be, your body's job is to avoid pain.
Exactly.
So when you're doing something simple that hurts, if your elbow is slightly more forward on that left side out of protection, there's nothing you can kind of really do about it. You know what I mean? I think it'll be interesting to see how much more change you see in the next
and then
year.
like even like from a neurological standpoint, like certain things are in pain or hurt long enough, your body will start neurologically protecting them, and they won't let the muscle lengthen like it should, and whole 9 yards. It just kind of makes its way down. Like that whole arm, it'd always be, the tendonitis in my forearm and elbow is worse on that side. The wrist's always bad on that side. I get trigger thumb from time to time on that side. It's like everything's just downstream. Like the same way it is when like, you hurt an ankle and then it makes its way up to your knee and then it makes its way up to your lower back. It's like...
Yeah, I think that's going to be a wild thing though, because your entire body should actually be impacted positively. I mean, the amount of CNS that's getting hammered just being in pain all the time, your recovery is going to speed up.
Actually, I have bad news. The good shoulder is going to be so good that now the other shoulder is going to completely go to shit. I'm just kidding.
He's got 10 more years for that.
You're not wrong. You're kind of not wrong.
Kind of not wrong. I
have noticed the other one hurts a little more now that this
right.
all day long.
I tore my quad in 2016, my left quad. Had it fixed, rehab was great, but now my right hip is completely screwed, and I know they're related. I know that the quad tear and maybe for 2 years after kind of favoring that side, I know that's why my hip is gone. Yeah. So I'm just, hopefully everything just goes very well and your body doesn't just kilter the other way.
Just fall in love with stem cells. You'll be fine.
Yeah. No, man, it's going to be
I've
awesome.
been swimming in circles this way for 5 years. I'll just start swimming in circles.
What overhead pressing machine, if you can only do one overhead pressing movement for the rest of your life, free of pain, what do you want to pick?
If it was free of pain,
Yeah, like, you know, now that you're fixed, maybe there's a
Like, my
press that you
favorite
can.
press is the prime shoulder press, but it still is very spicy. Basically, what I've found, like for my front delt and pressing work, I either do like a seated like cable front raise, like from here like to up to there, so it's like almost the same amount of like
Yep.
humeral raising as a press is, but it's very comfortable on the joint. Or, you know, I actually just got a shoulder press delivered today that allows me to do it, but something that really lets me have my elbows
Yeah.
tucked and not be out there all chicken wing makes a big difference.
Yeah. I can't get my hands back like for like shoulder
You know,
press
it's like
machines
from
like
a
this
true,
anymore.
like
I do them here.
I always tell people this to like when they look at their training to like not get so married to the exercises and get more married to the movement patterns. You know, like from a movement pattern perspective, a shoulder press is not really checking many boxes that you can't check by doing, you know, your incline presses for your chest, which I do and are comfortable, and then doing that front raise, you know,
Yeah.
that front raise motion.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we'll wrap it up here. I just got a couple of quick ones for you. Who's the funniest pro?
Who's the funniest pro?
You got quite a crew in Texas there. I'm sure someone around there.
So
Is he-
y'all probably haven't heard of him, but the dude I train with, Roy Evans, he is absolutely hilarious. He's the dude who I train with in all my videos just about every day. You know, so I'm a little biased to him, but you know, as far as pros that everyone knows go, man, Andrew's surprisingly witty and funny. You know, I know he's like pretty quiet, like to the masses, but
Those
like,
guys are
I've got
dangerous
spent-
though when you get to know them.
Yeah,
Quiet guys
we
are
spent enough
dangerous.
time together now, and like trained enough now, like you know, his little like under the breath comments and
Yes.
shit. He'll get me rolling a couple times. during
He'll
the
say
training.
one thing, but it's killer. Yeah. Oh man. What about? Oh damn! I had one more here for you. Oh yeah. Who's your favorite pro to follow on social media?
Who is my favorite pro to follow on social media?
He doesn't follow pro bodybuilders. He thinks they're boring.
Dude, I was like, yeah, no, like honestly.
That's why one should stick out. Is there anyone who's good?
Let's see, who's good on
Who gives the best content?
Who gives the best content? You know, honestly, man, I'll give a shout out to Brett and Martin right now. They've been doing a really good job with all their stuff, like strictly from like a nuts and bolts bodybuilding
Yeah.
perspective. You know,
Yeah.
like you can
We
see
just
what
talked
they
about
trained every
them.
day. They post the whole workouts. You know, they're posting consistently.
Right.
Obviously, they're both in prep, so it's like fun to see their check-ins and stuff. So I'd probably go with them right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We just did
I
a show.
definitely feel like they have got like the best like training partner like symbiosis going right
Yeah.
now. For sure.
We just did a show on like who is the best pros that you would tell like a young guy to follow.
Yeah,
You know, like
Brett
follow
Martin,
these guys. Like, you know, do what these guys are doing. You know, do this.
for sure. Those are
Yeah.
two
Right.
great
What,
examples.
what did you say? You said your generation had Dorian and Leroy, and then the next generation had Branch,
Johnny and Branch.
and Johnny, and then now we've got those two. Those are
Brett
like
and Martin.
the modern version. Yeah, Brett and
Yeah.
Martin.
Every generation needs like a real quality hardcore pair of like
Duo.
Duo. Every generation needs a good duo, you know? So
Absolutely.
okay. Hunter, man, great to talk to you again, dude.
Yes.
I remember meeting you at, I think we first met at the Australian Arnold when you were working the booth with Sergio.
2015, yeah, me and Sergio. That was a
And
good
you
trip.
were you still Natty in 2015? I think you might have been, but you were.
I did my first show in 2016.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I'd started riding the bicycle by then. But I was
So you weren't, to me,
okay.
yeah,
It's
you
got
weren't,
training wheels on it.
yeah, because you weren't competing yet. I just knew you as Hunter. Oh, that's Lee's kid. Oh, awesome. Because I remember when you were a baby, right? And then
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
2015,
there's
I was
Lee.
still- 2015, I was for sure just Lee's kid still.
Yeah, yeah. But I remember going over and meeting you and be like,
Although
I
made
wanted
my
to meet you. Yeah.
transition- Me and my dad get such a laugh out of it now because, like, obviously, like when I first got started, it was always like, "Oh, that's Lee's kid. Oh, that's Lee's kid. Oh, that's Lee's kid." And now we get, "Oh, that's Hunter's dad." And I'm like, yes.
Oh, yes. Hunter's dad. Oh, that must have been when that tilted. That must have felt good. You know?
Laugh about it for sure.
I really enjoyed when I saw your dad last time. He's so easy to talk to. I don't expect him to remember me, obviously, but I was just like chatting, and he goes, he asked me.
I know John Meadows claimed it, but he definitely could be runner-up in bodybuilding's Mr. Rogers for sure.
There you go. So I remember Lee said he like talked to me because how old are you now? And I said, and he goes, oh, I still got you by quite a bit. And he goes, just wait, everything's just gonna start falling apart. I remember he joked because I tore my calf water skiing, and I was like, oh, don't say that.
Dude, yeah, so there's no chance in hell he'll watch this, so I'll say it. Maybe someone will send him a little snippet and dime me out. But this dude, the other day, he strained his calf pulling something out of the oven.
Oh no!
Yeah, he got a little hot in his hand, and he was about to drop it, and did like a little hippity hop, and it strained a fiber in his calf. And I was like, "That's how you know you're getting old, huh?"
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, thanks, Hunter. Thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. Really happy to hear from you. You sound fantastic.
Yep.
Can't wait to see what you got planned next. And yeah, you're always welcome back here, man.
Yes.
Absolutely, guys. See y'all in Vegas in a couple
Yes,
weeks.
we'll see you there.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Okay.
I'll
Thank
see
you,
y'all there
everybody.
for sure.
Hunter Labrada on the show. Is this second time?
Second time.
Second time. Great to have you back, man. Thank you, Hunter.
Great to be back. Appreciate y'all having me on, guys.
Yep,
Cheers.
See you later.
Great to have Hunter on.
He was
Good to
awesome.
talk to him again. You know,
Yeah, that was cool.
Every time I talk to Hunter, he's so like, you know, some people it's like you just talk to them.
Yep.
Hey, Ron, how's it going? Yeah, what's up? You know, like he's very, very easy to talk to, and sometimes I don't talk to him for 2 years.
Yeah.
'Cause, you know, like the Wolfpack booth was like right next to us at the O last year, so Hunter was there a bunch of the day. Didn't get to talk to him. Oh, give me a sec. Let me hold on for 1 sec here.
He's leaving.
Yeah,
He's
what?
leaving us.
We're doing a little 30-second
We're
thing
doing
here.
our little end. It's just a quickie. Guys, this is what Ron does. Ever since
is
he got
we had-
famous,
This is what
It's
Dusty and
all
I have
been
to put up
downhill.
with every time now. Never fails.
at his age, he might be going to the bathroom. I don't know. I don't know. what
He just-
need
he
to
couldn't
break
wait.
away from.
He couldn't wait.
He's like, I gotta go. I mean, I've been sending him to Pens to his house, but he's not using him apparently. So, but no, it was great having Hunter on. I really hope that some of the it's something Scott, I've been working with a lot of my competitors on is figuring out that if bodybuilding starts to take over their life, that they're doing it wrong. And I know I was the same way. It was bodybuilding, like it didn't matter what the other thing was. This had to happen, and I got better when I released that a little bit. And like he said, it you know, Ron always says that it becomes background, you know, open files, you know, and that is truly how it is. But you stay locked in that form of like, I must do everything.
He did have a good point that like before you can get to that stage, Dusty, you do
you
have
do
to
it the other
like
way
lock it
first.
in. Yeah, you got to
yeah.
lock it in before you can like and do that long enough to start realizing like. And I don't want to use the term cutting corners, but you can learn where the corners can be cut. Versus there's that first several years where you're just like, I've got to do it at. You know, I'm supposed to eat this meal at 1 o'clock. I got to eat the meal at 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
You know
not
what I
105.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
think-
And then you get used to it after a while. You figure it out.
I'm sure you guys do this because I do it every day still. But like, I make monster steaks, and I still try to portion myself. And every time I'll cut the steak and be like, I bet you that's 10 ounces, and just put it on there, and it'll be like within 0.2.
Yeah.
Like that's why when I go out and eat or something, if I'm keeping an eye, I'm like, this is how much I can eat. You know what I mean? You've seen 10 ounces for 18 years on a plate. You kind of know what it looks like.
I have tiny rice portions now, 150 grams, and I will do the same thing. Eyeball it every time, and then turn the scale on and see. Did I get it? Yeah,
150 grams, so that's like 3 spoonfuls. Of course you can get it right. That's rough, Scott. I'm hungry thinking about it.
Maintaining 190 pounds, so I only need three spoonfuls each meal.
Each meal.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Perfect. Yeah, so great episode though, guys, and I'm very excited to see. I love to have someone that's understands and can bring more insight to guys like you said, Scott, because it's something Nikki tells me all the time. She goes, "You guys forget that you know these people." And so you talk about them in a way like they do. And she kind of reminds me all the time. She's like, you got to kick it down a little bit, because even him, he's like, Andrew, and for those of us who don't know Andrew Jacked by his first name only, it's
right. Andrew Jacked, one of the best bodybuilders in the world. You're you're telling jokes with him in the middle of your workouts. That's not a normal thing for the rest of us.
Exactly. So great episode. And I'm excited to see, and I'm very curious, on that Jordan / Brett thing now. It's in my mind.
Yeah, I'm calling it right
placing
now.
First, or
Brett
above
is
me?
my dark horse for the Olympia. I am putting putting it on the line right now. Yeah,
Okay.
I like it.
That's what I'm saying. Yep.
I think that's a very safe dark horse because he was nuts last year, and like you said, I haven't seen him in a year, so I think it'll be. I would love to see him spring up there like Martin did.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I've got stories about him too, from guys who've told me like, John Meadows and Scott Stevenson trained with him before I knew who he was, and this is before he turned pro, and that he was like outpacing both of them in legs back when they were strong. Like the first thing
He's
they
always
told
been a
me,
beast.
the first thing they told me was like, "Oh, Brett is incredibly strong." And I saw him turn pro. He competed against one of my guys in Classic at Junior Nationals. They both got their pro cards. He got the overall though, beat my guy, but he had to pare down so much to be in Classic. I believe that was his first and only time doing the division. And he's like, "No, screw this. I'm putting on." Like then he just ate a steak, and then he was an open bodybuilder.
One
Classic.
unmeasured steak. He was
I
the
forget.
first guy to transition from Classic to Open, Ron. Everyone's talking about hers. I'm like, dude, he did that years ago. Knock it off. Who cares?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be sick to see. So this is the first Olympia, guys, in a long time that I'm actually like counting down. I cannot wait to see what everyone brings and actually feeling like I don't know what's going to happen. Minus, I'm pretty sure that Samson's going to bring something scary.
Yeah, I just expect it.
Yeah, especially after what you guys were just saying. I didn't see that guest posing, but if he's looking depleted,
He looked great. It was like a real tight, but just slightly flatter version
like
of
sucked
Samson.
in. Like
sucked in, yeah.
We don't have to worry about him being full enough or round enough. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's going to have those things.
And again, he was on stage by himself, so who knows if you put other guys beside him, you'd been like, "Oh, he's still bigger."
But the key is what you're saying is
still a 24-inch arm.
But the key is what you're saying is it looks like he's pulling it in hard, and I think that gets me excited for him.
Well, dude, that was 6 weeks out.
Yeah,
it's going to be scary because that was a week ago, right, Ron? That was up. Yeah, so that's like 5 or 6 weeks out. I mean, it'll be interesting. So, but we'll see. Also, I do feel like a lot of people have been a little more quiet on showing what they look like. So we might get a lot of surprises.
To that point. Yeah.
It's exciting.
I'm very excited. And you guys know, I don't know if I said it on the show. I probably did. Emily and I getting married Thursday before the Olympia. So I don't know if I actually said that on the show or not.
You didn't? No.
But, so we're eloping. We're doing it all by ourselves.
All right.
And
I know somebody who did that.
Yeah, and then we're just going to take all the money people spend on weddings and just invest it.
I love that idea, man. That's basically what we did. We had, it was a little bit more than eloping.
You just had family in the yard, right?
Yeah. We were at a greenhouse, and it was like a historic greenhouse, but it was just literally, we had 6 guests all together. And then we went out for an awesome steak dinner afterward.
We were very motivated and inspired by Dusty and Nikki's spontaneous Vegas wedding. I still love how we went to meet you for that Illusionist show, and we pull up in the lobby of the show. They got the tickets. We need the tickets to get in. We're waiting there. Dusty's standing there. He's got our tickets. Walk up, go, "Hey, great to see you guys," because we hadn't, just happened to run into them. So, "Hey, how's it going? What'd you guys do today?" They're like, "Oh, we got married." We're like, "Oh," and then they Nikki's
we went to the show.
We went to the show.
Hey, that sounds like a great night to me.
awesome.
A great, and that's what it's about. I think that the opposite is like when you have 500 guests and you don't even get a chance to spend the time with the person you love because you're like trying to talk to somebody's uncle or something that you hardly even know the whole time.
Yeah,
full
so we're
wedding
gonna
was under $1,000.
Yeah, I know.
And that too. Yeah,
I was like, this is awesome.
We're going out. We're going an hour out of town to a place called Fire Valley, I think.
Oh yeah, I know that.
And it's like red rocks and it's really beautiful. And they're picking us up in a limo. We're going out there. We're getting married out at Red Rocks. They take a bunch of cool photos. It's a short little photo shoot, part of the package. And then you get in the limo and they drop you back off at your hotel and you're done for the day. So we're getting married at noon on Thursday.
Nice.
And then it's Olympia weekend.
That's cool.
Then we all pop in like nothing happened.
Yeah.
I grab the next meal, no matter whose turn it is, and we move forward.
See you at the booth on Friday, buddy. I am excited. I got my wedding band. I got its size. I got to go pick it up. I don't have any jewelry. I don't even own a watch.
It's your first piece.
All I'm going to have is a wedding band.
It's going to drive you batshit for a little bit, but you'll get used to it.
Yeah. The woman goes, "What are you looking for in a wedding band?" And I go, "I want it plain, simple, and tough. Like I don't want people get like 24 karat gold. It's soft and bendy and shit. I go, I want I don't even care if it's gold. I look gold. I just want it to look gold. It could be fucking steel. I just want a gold ring that I never take off.
Yeah,
Train with it, fucking never take it off." And she's like, "Okay." So she sort of sorted me out.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm so simple.
He said, "I want my ring the same way I want my burgers. Nothing.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, basic.
Yeah, classic. I did the thing everyone suggested. I went through the websites that have like the really cool rings. Yeah, like you can get whiskey barrel and tungsten with a guitar string in it.
Yeah.
And that could be your wedding band. And I'm like, these are cool, but that's not me. I'm so like old school simple. People would be weird if I had a fancy ring.
I wouldn't talk to you anymore.
You're going around with the fancy ring.
That would have given me so much material, though. I could have had so much fun.
I gotta do classic.
It was like he said, I can't do the bag. He said, if I had a bag, then it'd be like, oh, look around with the purse.
Go around with a man bag. It's too late now. I feel like I missed the man bag. It's been too many years. I can't start a man bag at 49.
Leave it with me. You're done.
Can't start the man bag. Can't get the
I
ring.
missed my window.
I just had a friend say that. We went out to dinner and I had mine. He goes, "I love that." He goes, "I can't do it because I'm too old to do that now, but I would have."
Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you, Victoria is happy that I carry a bag now because this is why I've got all my stuff in one place. So when we get ready to leave the house, I've got my phone, I've got my wallet, I've got my pouches, I've got the keys, like anything we need, it's there.
I know what else is in there that you didn't mention because I know it fits in mine just fine.
No, never. I want you to think it's in there, so I can be like, "Oh, here, yeah, it's in there. Take it."
But it's in his sock.
Yes.
Let me get my money out of my sock for you, Mr. Robber.
Yep, exactly.
I've got some cash in my sock. Let me just get down and pull that cash out of my sock.
Yep. You got it.
Amazing.
Hey, I know how it
good
goes.
stuff.
I know exactly. You can't wait to get that money out of your sock for them neither, can you, Scott? Let me give you this money. Don't go. I got a little bit more money in my sock.
I don't think you're. But wait, that's the way it works.
But wait, there's
they're
more.
Walking away.
But wait, there's more.
As they're walking away, they're 20
Come
feet
back.
away.
Come back.
I got another $20. Yeah.
It's in my
I got a really nice. I wear a really nice anklet. Let me give it to you.
Yeah, you really shouldn't leave without the anklet I have. It's very... Yeah. I don't want to be dishonest, Mr. Robber. I haven't given you everything I have.
Oh, classic.
It's really funny when you're like, I hope I get robbed today. And you got that mentality. Hey, Dusty?
I think there
There's
are
been
people
a
out
few
there
of those that have happened.
Dusty can't wait to get
people out there
carjacked.
that
Can't
think
wait.
that's the way it is. They're like, that's why you carry, right? That's why you carry.
Sitting at red lights, just itching. Come on.
You don't do that when you live in the South, Ron, because everyone else is also.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
I know.
It's just a fact. You're like, I just always wonder which one they have or two,
Right. And if it's the car behind you or in front of you that's going to help you out. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
there's there was a thing the other day. I'll be cautious with my delivery of this, but I think it was in Texas, and a guy came in to rob a convenience store, and 3 people in there stopped it all at once.
I love those videos.
Listen, and if that's the way the world operated, there would be a lot less crime. You know what I'm saying?
I just loved it. I was like, not 1, not 2, but 3 people handled it all at once.
My favorite of that genre of video is when there's like an old man in a Waffle House or something, and everyone's getting held up, and the old man is just eating and doesn't even stop. That type of video.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
when it comes his turn, he just goes bam, and back to his eating. Like there's a couple videos out there, just these old men that are like they're not doing this. And they go right back to their coffee too. Like it's amazing.
I saw a video, Ron, the other day. The guy wasn't armed or anything, but a guy was robbing a bar, and he comes over and the guy takes his wallet out, hands to him, takes his watch off, hands to him, goes to another guy who's literally still drinking, and the guy goes no.
He wanted to take his phone, right?
And he's like,
He just pulled
nope.
his phone back.
And he literally puts it back, stands there, continues drinking. The guy goes around the thing, robbing, comes back to him. He's like, mm-mm. And the dude just finally leaves. He's like, you're not robbing me. And the thief was like, you know what? I don't know what this dude's deal is, but I'm going to let it slide because I don't want to find out.
A lot more soft targets all around here, you know?
Yeah.
Literally, the guy was like, you could rob everyone here, just not me.
I always like those videos too. There'll be like a massive violent brawl happening in like the background of a Waffle House or something. And there'll be one dude just sitting there, like I'm not taking part. I'm enjoying my food. People all around him. Just love that.
He's seen the battlefield before, I promise.
It's not his
Reacting
first
to
time
that.
to Waffle House, you know?
Yeah.
It's a Thursday, guys. It's a Thursday.
It's fine.
I'm going to finish my coffee. Okay. Well, that was great. Scott can stitch this together and make a makeshift episode out of this. Hey?
Absolutely. Do something
Yes.
good.
Yeah, we got
Sounds
it.
good.
We got it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
yes, and remember, IamMutant.com. Go to IamMutant.com. Get your ISO surge or his hardcore ISO now. Yes. Get your all in. Get your Mind FK and get your big greens.
Big greens, chocolate.
The big greens, the chocolate big greens, and of course, everyone should get on the gear.
All the gear.
So yes, all the gear. Get all the gear you can get. All the flavors. Alternate them. Mix them. Okay, stack them.
Yep.
Stack
Stack
the
your
gears. Stack the gears. Okay, remember, it's just bodybuilding.